Last thing, I wanted to talk about tariffs. Because people point out, well, if we leave the EU, couldn't we just drop tariffs with everybody? Assuming we just drop tariffs with everybody doesn't necessarily mean that they'll drop tariffs with us, but let's assume that a good chunk of them do, especially in the developing world, right? The EU might not, the US might not, etc. And we would say, well, then we can make up trade with these poorer countries. And so this has some benefits. It probably would reduce prices in the UK. But the problem is how it would reduce prices. With those poor countries, they obviously have much, much lower wages. And so when they produce something over there, it's much cheaper because the people are paid a pittance and work in horrible, horrible conditions. And when it comes into the EU, or in our case the UK, the tariff increases the cost. So what that means is, even though they've got terrible wages and conditions, those don't mean that the price is a huge amount lower. Why would we want that? Because if the price is always lower if you treat your employees badly, then people are going to treat their employees badly. And if there are no tariffs, that means that British workers are in competition with all of these workers in terrible, terrible conditions with terrible, terrible wages. So you either get lower UK wages, or you get higher unemployment, or both, and that will more than offset the drop in prices. Yes, ultimately we want to get to this place with low tariffs, low barriers, all over the world. But in order to do that, these developing countries need to grow. They need to get better conditions, better wages. And we can help them with that. And that's great, and we should be doing that. And actually, part of being in the EU is that magnifies our ability to do that. Being part of this huge, big bloc, 500 million people, biggest economy in the world, it allows us to push for trade deals that we think get the best of both worlds, that help those countries develop but don't hurt our workers too much in the short term. Being part of a big bloc is hugely helpful for a bunch of reasons. For example, the EU recently forced Google and Amazon to pay a bunch of tax that they had refused to pay, and the UK government had given up. That's what it's for. It's for reducing those costs of trade within it, and then in terms of what's going on outside, it's about hopefully, over time, helping those other countries pull themselves up while we help them, so that when they're more level, we can slowly reduce tariffs, we can slowly reduce trade barriers, and through all of those things, not only do they get richer, but we get richer too. And that's the point of it. That doesn't diminish the UK, it magnifies it.